Seriously? Hey guys, and welcome to this Ork Tactics video with me, 6+ Stevo. In this one, we're going to be talking about the Humble Grot, one of the weakest units possibly in the entire 40k game. Or is it? Well, I don't think so. The Gretchin, or the Grots, are one of my favourites. As I said, these are a fantastic troop choice. We're going to go over a lot of stuff in this video. Lots of different ways to use them, and lots of different ways to get the best out of this seemingly weak unit. Before we get into it, let's quickly run over their stats. They are a troop's choice. They cost 3 points per model, and their stats are as follows. They have movement 5, weapon skill 5+, ballistic skill 4+, strength 2, toughness 2, 1 wound, 1 attack, leadership 4, and a 6+ save. The unit contains 10 Gretchin, and it can include up to 20 more to go to a maximum size of 30. They are armed with a Grot Blaster, which has a range of 12 inches, is a type pistol 1, strength 3, AP nothing, damage 1. They have the abilities Daka 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 and surprisingly dangerous in large numbers. And that ability gives them add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by models in this unit while it contains 20 or more models. They have the faction keywords Ork and Clan, and keywords Infantry, Gretchin. So there's not a lot to be excited about there in the statistics. Clearly they are a very weak unit. Each Grot only gets 1 attack, they've got 1 wound, they've got incredibly low leadership, they've only got a 6+ save, strength and toughness 2. That means, you're having to roll a 6+ to wound a humble space marine, for example. And most things are going to be wounding Gretchins on a 3+, if not a 2+, quite a lot. They do have a decent ballistic skill of 4+, which is nice in an army filled with 5+ ballistic skill. So they do have that going for them. However, the gun they're firing with is not that impressive. It only has 12-inch range, it's a strength 3, no armor penetration, so even though they're going to hit, they're going to be a lot more accurate with their shooting than Ork Boys, for example, they're still not going to do a lot, because once they do hit, then they're going to be wounding most things on a 5+. And so yeah, they're not going to be very effective in that regard. So what am I talking about then when I say this is not a weak unit? Well, they are weak in the terms of pure combat capabilities. These are going to threaten virtually nothing in the game. There is very little these guys can come up against and pose any real significant threat. They can be buffed somewhat with certain abilities and things, as we'll go into later. There are ways to increase them and their combat capabilities and make them a little bit more of a threat, but it's not really what you want to be doing with them. So what can we do with them? Well, let's go over a few different ways that I use them and get good results out of them. The first thing you can use a unit of Grots for is as a screening unit. And by this I mean you can use this unit to protect other units. You can protect them from being charged by other units simply by putting a mob of Grots in front of a more valuable unit just behind them, particularly maybe a unit of looters or something, a shooter unit, and you can use your Grots as a screen to stop anything coming in and charging your looters, to keep them shooting. Do excuse me guys, I seem to be losing my voice, but I'm going to soldier on and persevere with this video regardless. So do excuse me while I take a sip of my drink. That's better. Got a Grot stuck in my throat. So yeah, screening units is a great way to use Grots. because they're so cheap. I mean, these are dirt cheap on points. 3 points a grot. A squad of 10 is only going to cost you 30 points. Even if you go to a maximum squad of 30, it's only costing you 90 points. And it's points well spent, and it's points saved, which you can spend elsewhere on flashier stuff. So yeah, working as a screen to protect your more valuable shooter units, your more expensive units, more fragile units. Great way to screen them from incoming attacks. You can also use them for board control. As I said, these guys are so cheap. So you can get lots of them. You could get multiple squads of 10 and you get really good board control. And what you'll notice is your opponent tends to ignore them in favour of targeting, obviously, your more threatening, more valuable units. So these guys are great. You can spread them out on the board. You can use them for deep strike denial, stopping these teleporting units, or coming in behind your back lines. Or, again, it's a great way to protect these valuable units. So you can have your main core of your army and then spread some smaller squads of grots around the perimeters of your army, around the backfield, around the flanks. It just stops when your enemy's trying to teleport in and get within just over that 9 inches away from a unit it really wants to charge in the next turn. These are a great way from preventing that entirely. Get your grots scattered around on the outskirts, and it really ruins your opponent's day, especially if he's got a lot of units held in reserve and he's planning, his whole game plan hinges on getting these units, maybe a big nasty unit of Terminators or something. He wants to get them right in the back lines and target one of your key units or a key objective. Grots are probably the best way to prevent this from happening, because you can have tons of them and just cover your side of the board, so there is nowhere for them to come in and strike your flanks. Now, I've used this a lot of times and it really does work, and you can see your opponent's face when they're trying to figure out how can they get them, and having to put them where they don't really want them because you've left them so little choice. It really does mess with their game plan. And once you've started doing that and getting in your opponent's head and messing with their plan, the advantage is with you then. And speaking of using these guys as board control, they make amazing objective grabbers. They're not going to be good at holding an objective and like defending an objective. These guys will crumple under the slightest attack. But say you're playing the type of mission in which you score points for objectives each turn, or you're playing a Maelstrom mission where you're drawing cards and an objective comes up. Grots are great because, like I said, using them in combat is not where their strength lies. It's a waste. It really is, because they're not going to achieve a whole lot. Very rarely will they achieve anything. It can be fun, don't get me wrong, but grabbing objectives is what you want these guys doing, because they can nip across, grab an objective, score you some quick victory points, and what they're doing then is preventing you having to use, say, a unit of Meganobs, or a unit of Tank Busters, or just a unit of Boys. It's preventing you having to use those units that are much better placed in getting on doing what orcs love doing, and that's stomping heads and killing stuff. And if your grots are doing all the boring jobs, like grabbing an objective, while the orcs can get on with hogging all the glory, then that works great. Also, it's really fluffy as well, to be fair. So yeah, another great use for them. They're also great at soaking up Overwatch. This is a good time to charge with your grots. If your grots are in range and you're about to charge a big nasty unit, particularly if it's got a lot of heavy firepower, and you're about to charge in with a Death Dread or a unit of Boys or whatever, Overwatch can be nasty. You can lose a lot of Boys charging into Overwatch, especially if they've got flamers and stuff. If you've got a throwaway unit of Gretchin and you charge them in first, you only need a couple of them to survive and just get into combat, soak up the Overwatch, leaving your other units unmolested to be able to charge in without any worry of Overwatch at all. This is a fantastic way to use grots. throw them in as a sacrificial unit. If they fail and he does kill them all with the Overwatch, then you've lost a little unit of Gretchin. Who really cares? But the chances are you'll get a few of the Grots into combat. They're going to die in combat, but they've prevented your nice, expensive, possibly fragile unit from taking any damage from Overwatch at all. So a really fantastic way to use Grots there. Also, another way I've used them in the past. Now it depends what type of army you're facing or what type of units you're facing. But I love using large mobs of Grots as tar pit units. And what I mean by a tar pit unit is you're going to throw them into combat with the expectation that they're going to not achieve much. But that is not why you're getting them in there. They're not going to go into combat and kill and win the combat. They are going into combat to tie a nasty unit up. Something maybe that at that point in the battle you don't want to deal with, or maybe you want to prevent it from shooting. You want to tie it up for a few turns and prevent it doing what it does best and killing a load of your boys and a load of your good stuff. Throw a large unit of Grots in with it. I love, in particular, Dreadnoughts are amazing for this. If you throw a unit of Grots in against a Dreadnought, it can only kill a handful of Grots per turn, because it only gets so many attacks. These attacks are devastating. They cause multiple damage. But all that damage, all that strength, all that nasty combat ability of the Dreadnought is completely wasted on a unit of Grots. Each round of combat, he's killing a load of Grots. Yeah, he's getting about 12 points back, in terms of, points values of the units. So it's a real waste of quite an expensive unit. I've done this to my regular opponent a couple of times against his Redemptor Dreadnought, which carries a ludicrous amount of firepower and is, a horrendous unit for my boys to face. Slugger boys and stuff, they drop like 9 pins with the firepower from them Onslaught Gatling cannons. Tie up a nasty unit like that with 30 Grots. He's there playing whack-a-mole with these things, stomping them into a green paste for pretty much the rest of the game. Now, if you are going to use them in the tar pit way, it is definitely advisable to have them backed up by a runt herd. We'll take a closer look at the runt herd in a minute. Now, usually I don't often take runt herds unless I'm playing large points games, or I am fully intending in using the Gretchin in this way. Then I will take a runt herd. But runt herds, for my money, I personally think they're a bit overcosted. But they do serve a purpose and they can buff the Grots as well. So we'll take a look at that later. But yeah, you will want a runt herd to help keep those Grots in line, because if you got a runt herd with them, they're with a Squig Hound, those Grots are not going anywhere. They're staying there. And yeah, that Dreadnought or whatever else, Carnifex, whatever you're fighting against, Demon Prince, these things are going to lock it down and keep it there for a good few turns. And this is another great thing that Grots are good for, is farming command points. And what I mean by that is you can easily fill out battalion detachments, and it will help you a lot in filling out things like brigade detachments, because you can fill out your troop slots. You can fill out those detachment taxes very easily and very cheaply. If you've got a particular army in mind and you want to get some certain things but you're very tight on points and you want to save points somewhere, then look to the troops section and maybe not choose so many units of boys. Fill it out with multiple units of 10 Grots. That'll fill out your troop slot for 30 points, but those command points are so worth it. If you can get as many command points in game as you can, because I don't need to tell you just how powerful stratagems and things are. Check out my tactics video on stratagems, which will be popping up on the screen now, in which I go over all the Ork stratagems. But there's some really bloody good ones in there. So just spending that 30 points on a small unit of 10 Grots to help fill out those troop slots, to get you those command points and fill out the detachments that you really want, help you get them battalion detachments. this is going to help you massively in game. Trust me on that. So there you go, guys. There is just a small selection of various ways you can use Grots to help you win games. And when I say that, I really mean it. This is not a weak unit. They have literally won me several games. So what size units do you use for Grots? Well, like I said, it all depends in how you intend to use them. Most of the time, I tend to use them in small squads of 10. I just fill out the minimum size squads just for a small squad of 10. I've got them there literally as screening units, as area denial units, board control, objective grabbers, overwatch soakers. So that's my usual way of using them. In which case, I would advise you to go for as many small units as you can to give you good board control, to give you good numbers. In that situation, I would advise against a runt herd because they're not worth the points really. For what you're trying to buff and what you're trying to protect and things, it's not worth it for just small units. If you intend to use them as a tar pit unit, as a big mob of Grots that are just going to be a pain in the backside for your opponent to get rid of and to tie up some of his nastier units while your boys can get on with chopping up the other stuff. Once they're done with that, then they can come over and target the dreadnought that the Grots have been tying up. So yeah, if you're going to use them as a tar pit unit, then yes, I would say get a runt herd. And while we're on the subject, let's take a look at the runt herd now. The runt herd comes in, I believe, at 26 points, but I'm just going to confirm that. Runt herd is, no, 35 points. Jeez, God, I was remembering it even wrong there. So yeah, 35 points is, in my opinion, a bit ludicrous. Yeah, they're quite good at what they do, but are they worth 35 points? In my opinion, hell no. I think they need a massive points drop. I really do. I think they probably need to be near something like 25 points in my book. But yeah, 35 points. Whoa. It's been a while since I've used a runt herd, actually, as you can tell, because I even forgot how many points they were. It's worse than I thought. But anyway, let's go over their stats. A runt herd has a movement of 5, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 5+, strength and toughness 4, 4 wounds, which is nice, 3 attacks, which is also very nice, leadership 7, and 6+ save. So he's essentially a boy, but with extra wounds and extra attacks, and a higher leadership. So yeah, he's not too shabby. He is a single model armed with a slugger and a grabber stick. I don't need to go over the stats of the slugger. The grabber stick is a melee weapon that has +1 strength, and each time the bearer fights, it can make 1 additional attack with this weapon. So that's not bad. He's fighting at strength 5, and he gets an extra. He'll be on 4 attacks with that. You can change that out for the grot prod, in which case he'll have strength +2, AP -1. So he loses out on the extra attack, but he gains +1 strength and plus a -1 to AP. That's personally the one I would always go for. The grot prod, in my opinion, is the better option because that +2 strength, putting him on strength 6, but it's the AP at -1. That can make a lot of difference. It really can. He also comes with the Grot Lash or a Squig Hound. So you've got 2 choices here. The Grot Lash, if he's equipped with that, re-roll hit rolls of 1 in the fight phase for attacks made by units comprised entirely of Gretchin infantry while they're within 3 inches of any friendly runt herd models with a Grot Lash. So this is nice. This is a way to buff the Grots up. As we've seen earlier, they already have the surprisingly dangerous in large numbers rule, so that makes them a bit better in combat, where they add 1 to hit rolls made for attacks made by models in this unit while it contains 20 or more. And that doesn't say combat either. That's just add 1 to hit rolls. So that's their shooting as well. So pretty damn good. And then combined with re-rolling ones in the fight phase with the Grot Lash, this could actually make a large mob of 30 of them quite nasty in combat. Certainly to like weaker units, things like guardsmen and stuff would find this a bit difficult to deal with. So that they could, like, you know, as the rule says, be surprisingly dangerous. But the Squighound is definitely the better option if you're going for the tar pit. If a unit comprised entirely of Gretchin infantry fails a morale test while it was within 3 inches of any friendly runt herd models with a Squighound, ignore the result. D3 models from the unit are slain instead. So this is going to make this unit of 30 virtually, you know, indestructible. They're not running anywhere. You're going to lose D3 models for every failed test. Who cares? There's loads more where that came from. If you're fighting against a big monster or something, he's only going to be killing 3 or 4, maybe 5 at a time. So they're sticking around for a long time. And yeah, so the runt herd is a, you know, he's pretty tasty in combat himself, and so he can do some damage. But personally, if you're going to do this, I'd keep him, you know, at the rear behind the Grots. Don't get him into combat unless you think there's an opportunity to do something with him. His main job, it really is going to be to just keep those Grots in line. But like I said, it becomes a bit of a point sink. Once you've spent 90 points on a large unit of Grots and then 36 in him, you're starting to get in big points now for what is a throwaway unit. So keep that in mind with the runt herd. It's situational. It depends what type of units you're fighting. I'd be amiss if I didn't talk about the stratagems that we can use with Grots. And one big thing that a lot of people say is, well, you can't use Ork stratagems with Grots. Then that is true for the most part. The only thing that you could potentially use with them is the Grot Shield stratagem. This goes back to me talking about screening units. The Grot Shield stratagem is very, very good indeed. You know, when your opponent targets your unit and then they're just hitting your Grots instead, yeah, that it's very, very, very good indeed. Let me just skim to that page now and read out the Grot Shield stratagem, because it is pretty damn awesome. It costs 1 command point. Orcs often use nearby Grot mobs as bullet shields. Use this stratagem after a clan infantry unit from your army has been hit by a ranged weapon. Until the end of the phase, you can roll a d6 each time a model from that unit loses a wound, if there is a friendly unit comprised entirely of Gretchin infantry models within 6 inches of it, and the Gretchin unit is closer to the attacking model than the target. On a 2+, the original model does not lose that wound, but one model in that Gretchin unit, your choice, is slain. Otherwise, the model loses the wound as normal. So this is very cool. For 1 command point, it's nice and cheap. You've already farmed a load of command points just by having all these Grots in the first place, and then spending it on these Grot shields to protect your units behind. Shooty units in particular, things like looters, things like tank busters. Yeah, this is awesome. So literally use them as a living meat shield, and it makes them a great screening unit from combat and shooting. But that's not the only one we can use, because we do have the stratagems from the rulebook as well. So we've got the good old command reroll. I wouldn't advise using that for failed leadership tests or anything. That's just not, don't ever use that with your Grots. I can't ever see a reason where that's a good thing to use. But the insane bravery stratagem for 2 command points, if you haven't got the runt herd with the Squighound, this is an option for you. If they're on an objective and you know they're going to, because they pretty much always fail leadership tests, and you need that last couple of Grots to stay alive just to claim you that victory point that turn for that command, that objective, then yeah, insane bravery, don't forget about it. Many a game I've completely forgotten about that stratagem, and I've rolled the leadership test and thought, damn it, I should have used it. Because the important thing is to remember, if you are intending at any point to use the insane bravery strategy, you have to use it before you take the leadership test. You cannot roll the dice, fail it, and then go to take it, like you do with the Squighound. So that's one to keep in mind. I mean, it's not something I would say to use regularly or blow your command points on, but at a key point in the game, if that objective and those victory points could be the difference between winning and losing, then yeah, insane bravery is the way to go. Other than that, there's nothing else they can use, because unfortunately they can't use Ork Stratagems, which is a real pain. But yeah, but I hope, guys, I hope that in listening to me ramble on about these guys and the different ways you can use them, that I've maybe opened your eyes to some possibilities with these, and that I've kind of, you know, shown you that Grots are not weak. There's too many players in the game that look through codexes of whatever faction, and they will just pick the shiny stuff, the expensive stuff, the good stuff, and they'll give very little thought to these chaff units, you know, and they don't put any value in them. Literally, I'm not exaggerating, I cannot emphasize this enough. My Grots have won me so many games in terms of victory points. They really have, where they've killed nothing, absolutely nothing all game. And they've just maybe sat at the back of the board, sitting on an objective, claiming points each turn, or have, you know, just in defensive ways and things, you know, ways that are a bit harder to measure, but they've just prevented my enemy doing what he wants to do, or protected a unit which itself has later done something really impactful in the game. Grots are so useful, and I would strongly advise any Ork player out there who's perhaps overlooked Grots, try them out, guys, try them out. Not only are they cheap on points, they're dirt cheap to buy. They're fantastic looking little miniatures as well. They're full of character, they're really funny. They add a nice little comical touch to your Ork army, and yeah, Grots are cool. I love Grots, and I always try and squeeze in as many Grots as I can, no matter the game I play, you know, the army I'm playing. Grots are just awesome. So yes, guys, please, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. I am sorry about the sore throat and losing the voice, but I had to persevere anyway. But hit that like button anyway, guys. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because I'm coming out with tactics videos and conversion videos and all other Orky content besides. So if you like this sort of stuff, please hit that subscribe button. There's plenty more where this came from. And share your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Get the discussion going. If there's anything I haven't covered here, please share it in the comments so that others can read it and learn from it. It's good to share these tactical tips and things with each other. And let me know what you think of Grots. Do you think Grots are great? Do you think they're, you know, do you think they're one of the best units in the codexes? Are they better than boys? Or do you think they're chaff and rubbish and you never use them? And what do you think of runt herds? We need runt herds points to drop, please, GW. They're 35 points is ridiculous. You can get like a mega knob for pretty much the same points. That's just ludicrous when you think about it. But anyway, guys, thank you very much. Now I'm going to cut this video short, and I will see you on the next one. This is 6+ Stevo signing out.